Welcome back to CNN in this breaking news. I'm Brooke Baldwin. The apparent death of Moammar Gadhafi. Wolf Blitzer standing by, going to join me here alongside in Washington. And Wolf, as you very well know, we are standing by for President Obama. He is scheduled to speak any moment now from the White House Rose Garden. We're going to carry that live as soon as we see him there in the Rose Garden. Keep in mind, the United States government has not yet confirmed, which much of the world seems to accept at this point, that Gadhafi was mortally wounded today in or near his hometown of Sirte. And as we await, and again, live pictures from the White House, as we await the president, I want to show you this video. We took it in just about 90 minutes ago. It appears to show, look carefully, it appears to show Gadhafi in custody. He appears in this image there, right there, still alive. I know it's jumpy, it's hard to follow, but we do see a man, purportedly Moammar Gadhafi, in a semi-upright position up against that truck, clearly under duress, quite possibly mortally wounded. Now, the most detailed account we have heard thus far, and I need to reiterate to you where we say detailed, but again, unconfirmed, is that Gadhafi was wounded and captured in Sirte, his hometown, and that his captors determined to drive him from Sirte to Misrata. There are hospitals there, and that in that car, in that vehicle, Gadhafi died. Now, I need to warn you, this next piece of video is even more unsettling than this. This video here purports to show a bloodied Gadhafi here on the ground in Sirte. And you can clearly, if you look closely, the likeness there to Moammar Gadhafi, and that is our sole reason for airing this particular video here on CNN. Now, Libyans seem to accept the notion that Gadhafi is dead. They have heard it from the country's new leaders, including the Libyan ambassador to London. Here he is speaking just this morning.
Today, Thursday, 20th of October, we are told that Gadhafi is dead. The Libyan.
And again, that purports to show the body of also more video. One of Gadhafi's sons, Mutassim, also apparently killed in the fighting in Sirte. Wolf Blitzer, I know as we mentioned, we are awaiting the president, and certainly this is the first time we will have heard from him thus far today.
Yeah, it's true. Nobody from the Obama administration, at least publicly, yet has officially confirmed that Gadhafi is dead, although numerous members of the House and the Senate have said Gadhafi is dead, and presumably they're getting their information from the executive branch of the U.S. government. It'll be very interesting to hear precisely how the President of the United States, once he walks into the Rose Garden from the Oval Office and carefully reads his statement to the American people and to the world, I should say, how he phrases the language that Gadhafi is in fact dead. How far does he go in confirming this? In fact, Brianna Keeler is our White House correspondent. She's standing by. Do you have any advance indications, Brianna, on the phrasing that the President might use when he walks to where you are right now into the Rose Garden?
We do, Wolf, and it is going to be very, very careful, as we understand it from a White House official, not an outright acknowledgement of an independent confirmation on the part of U.S. officials, but from a White House official, we're told that the president will cite the fact that Libyan officials have announced Gadhafi's death, and also, and this may be even more significant, that the U.S. has received similar reports through diplomatic channels, and that they're pretty confident in those reports. We haven't heard publicly from White House officials yet, except earlier today, Vice President Biden did acknowledge Gadhafi in the situation, and we're just getting a 2-minute warning, I should tell you, Wolf, so we're a couple minutes out from the president speaking here in the Rose Garden. But Vice President Biden, as we listen carefully, had said one way or another he's gone, dead or alive, he's gone. So he didn't acknowledge the belief that Gadhafi is dead, but he was hailing this, the U.S. involvement in Libya as really a good method for helping, I guess, move democracy and also just assuring that there weren't any U.S. casualties. He said we invested $2 billion, I should say, and we didn't lose a single life. He said that was a prescription in how we ought to deal going forward. So certainly from the vice president sort of hailing the strategy that the administration used in Libya, even though, Wolf, as you know, the president got a lot of flack from some war-weary Democrats and certainly from some fiscally conservative Republicans. Republicans who were concerned over the money that was being invested.
Yeah, he got flack not only from them, but from the other side. He got flack for waiting too long and going forward with the NATO-imposed no-fly zone over Libya. Some of his critics early on suggesting that some innocent Libyans were killed because the U.S. and the NATO allies were dawdling, if you will. What I'm going to be especially interested, Breanna, I don't know if you have any advance word on what the president will say on the lessons learned from Libya. Does the U.S. do this kind of thing with the NATO allies down the road in other countries? For example, Syria. Where does the U.S. go from here? I assume he's going to look ahead as well. Is that what you're hearing?
Well, I haven't heard that, Wolf, but I think if you're judging by what we've heard from Vice President Joe Biden, he was hailing this as a prescription. So obviously that's something that would be applied in other circumstances and not just in Libya. We've long heard from the White House, from President Obama, that each of these nations where we've seen activity during the Arab uprisings, that each one should really be treated differently. Certainly Syria falls into that category, but I think we would expect for him to look forward. We've certainly heard that from Vice President Biden already today, Wolf.
Yeah, I assume he will as well. But, well, you know what? Here he comes. The president has just walked out of the Oval Office. He's going to walk down into the Rose Garden and address the American people and the world.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today, the government of Libya announced the death of Moammar Gadhafi. This marks the end of a long and painful chapter for the people of Libya, who now have the opportunity to determine their own destiny in a new and democratic Libya. For 4 decades, the Gadhafi regime ruled the Libyan people with an iron fist. Basic human rights were denied, innocent civilians were detained, beaten, and killed, and Libya's wealth was squandered. The enormous potential of the Libyan people was held back, and terror was used as a political weapon. Today, we can definitively say that the Gadhafi regime has come to an end. The last major regime strongholds have fallen. The new government is consolidating the control over the country, and one of the world's longest-serving dictators is no more. 1 year ago, the notion of a free Libya seemed impossible. But then the Libyan people rose up and demanded their rights. And when Gadhafi and his forces started going city to city, town by town, to brutalize men, women, and children, the world refused to stand idly by. Faced with the potential of mass atrocities and a call for help from the Libyan people, the United States and our friends and allies stopped Gadhafi's forces in their tracks. A coalition that included the United States, NATO, and Arab nations persevered through the summer to protect Libyan civilians. And meanwhile, the courageous Libyan people fought for their own future and broke the back of the regime. So this is a momentous day in the history of Libya. The dark shadow of tyranny has been lifted, and with this enormous promise, the Libyan people now have a great responsibility to build an inclusive and tolerant and democratic Libya that stands as the ultimate rebuke to Gadhafi's dictatorship. We look forward to the announcement of the country's liberation, the quick formation of an interim government, and a stable transition to Libya's first free and fair elections. And we call on our Libyan friends to continue to work with the international community to secure dangerous materials and to respect the human rights of all Libyans, including those who've been detained. We're under no illusions. Libya will travel a long and winding road to full democracy. There will be difficult days ahead. But the United States, together with the international community, is committed to the Libyan people. You have won your revolution. And now we will be a partner as you forge a future that provides dignity, freedom, and opportunity. For the region, today's events prove once more that the rule of an iron fist inevitably comes to an end. Across the Arab world, citizens have stood up to claim their rights. Youth are delivering a powerful rebuke to dictatorship. And those leaders who try to deny their human dignity will not succeed. For us here in the United States, we are reminded today of all those Americans that we lost at the hands of Gaddafi's terror. Their families and friends are in our thoughts and in our prayers. We recall their bright smiles, their extraordinary lives, and their tragic deaths. We know that nothing can close the wound of their loss, but we stand together as one nation by their side. For nearly 8 months, many Americans have provided extraordinary service in support of our efforts to protect the Libyan people and to provide them with a chance to determine their own destiny. Our skilled diplomats have helped to lead an unprecedented global response. Our brave pilots have flown in Libya's skies. Our sailors have provided support off Libya's shores, and our leadership at NATO has helped guide our coalition. Without putting a single U.S. service member on the ground, we achieved our objectives, and our NATO mission will soon come to an end. This comes at a time when we see the strength of American leadership across the world. We've taken out al-Qaeda leaders, and we've put them on the path to defeat. We're winding down the war in Iraq and have begun a transition in Afghanistan. And now, working in Libya with friends and allies, we've demonstrated what collective action can achieve in the 21st century. Of course, above all, today's belongs to the people of Libya. This is a moment for them to remember all those who suffered and were lost under Gaddafi and look forward to the promise of a new day. And I know the American people wish the people of Libya the very best in what will be a challenging but hopeful days, weeks, months, and years ahead. Thank you very much.
The doctrine of leading from behind.
All right, so the president not responding to questions that were shouted from some of the reporters in the Rose Garden. He spoke for about 5 minutes, just a little bit more than 5 minutes, and he told the world and he told the people of Libya, you have won your revolution. The president of the United States, in effect, going ahead and confirming that Gaddafi is dead, saying that he's been so informed by the new government in Libya. A strong statement from the president, not really elaborating too much on where the U.S. might go from here, but clearly saying that this is a momentous, in his words, a momentous day. Brooke, as we watch what happens next, it's going to be fascinating to see where the NATO mission, if the NATO mission even continues in Libya, and if the NATO mission were to expand to some of the other countries that are seeing some dramatic developments unfolding in that part of the world. Lots of unanswered questions, and the president certainly didn't answer any of the questions, Brooke, as far as how Gaddafi was killed. Was he captured alive? Was he wounded? Was he subsequently executed? And certainly didn't get into any of the details of his two sons, one of whom has officially been confirmed dead, the other one, Al Arabiya, saying is dead, Saif al-Islam. So there's a lot of unanswered questions, and I know you're going to be watching all of this closely.
We will, but Wolf Blitzer, before I let you go, I was really listening closely as well to the phraseology of sort of the end of the Gaddafi regime, and he said today we can definitively say that the Gaddafi regime has come to an end, but he never uttered the words, Gaddafi is dead. And to your point, that obviously his phrasing, the nuances are so key, but if you can just put it in a bigger context, why? Why did he not say that?
Well, he said the U.S. government has been informed by the Libyan government that Gaddafi is dead. He didn't say the U.S. has independent confirmation or anything like that. He was just taking the word of the Libyan government. It's such a sensitive issue because over these many months, these several months of the Libyan revolution, the transitional government there, they issued all sorts of statements, and a lot of them were simply not true. Earlier statements that one or another of the Gaddafi sons, for example, was dead. And you know what? We later found out that son, whether it was Saif al-Islam or Mutassim or any of the other sons, were not dead. And then the Libyan Transitional Authority would say, well, we deliberately lied for psychological propaganda purposes to try to put pressure on the government, the Gaddafi supporters, and we wanted to get them nervous. Well, that's not the way you behave. You certainly don't establish credibility by deliberately putting out a false statement. So in this particular case, about 12 hours or so ago, Brooke, when we first heard about what was going on in Sirte, Gaddafi's hometown, and there were initial reports that Gaddafi was wounded, captured, and then the reports that he was dead. A lot of us certainly remembered some of the false statements that had come out from the Libyan transitional government, and that's why there was such strong hesitation. And I must say, it wasn't just journalists who were skeptical of these initial statements. It was world leaders, including, as you saw, the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton. She was about to do a series of interviews with reporters traveling with her right now in Afghanistan, and she said, wow, when she got that initial report.
Exactly.
Yeah, she saw it on a BlackBerry, and then she said, it's unconfirmed, we don't have it for sure. She calmed down very, very quickly. We have that on videotape. I'm sure you'll show it to our viewers.
We'll be talking to Jill Doherty, also perhaps answering some of the questions as to the how and the when with regard to Gaddafi and the ending of his life some 12 hours ago. We'll talk to Dan Rivers, who has been in Sirte, covering the Battle of Sirte, and we'll talk to him as he is in Tripoli today. Wolf Blitzer, I know you have the Situation Room to get ready for. We will see you here in less than 2 hours. Thank you so much for your extensive coverage today. Folks, stay right with me. All kinds of celebrating in Libya today. The end of an era. 42-year dictator dead. Moammar Gadhafi. Be right back.